Okay, so we're on page 16, and we're going to look at a few things. ER verbs, IR verbs, the verb ser, and how the verb is different from the verb estar. And then also some adjectives. Okay, so page 16 is where we're starting. You can read along. In this section, you will review the present tense of the regular ER verbs and IR verbs. Most verbs that end in ER are conjugated like deber, or to owe. Deber means to owe. And the most verbs that end in IR are conjugated like the verb vivir, which means to live. So deber is an ER verb, and it conjugates with o, es, e, hemos, eis, en on the end. So debo, debes, debe, debemos, debéis, deben. And then the present participle is debiendo. Okay. And then the IR verbs conjugate just like ER verbs, except for the first person plural and first person plural and second person plural. So vivo, vives, vive, vivimos, vivis, viven. Right. So the IR verbs conjugate differently than ER verbs because they change when it gets to first person plural and second person plural. So other than that, they're the same. Notice the vivo, vives, vive, debo, debes, debe is the same, and then debemos and vivimos. And again, debéis with an accent on the E and then an IS, and vivis with an accent on just an IS. And then viven is deben, is the same. So notice how that's different. So also notice the ER is the same thing as AR verbs, except that it's an E instead of an A. So hablo, hablas, habla, debo, debes, debe. So change the A for the E. And then you should know those verbs. You should know the verbs on that page in 117. Sorry, on page 17. Okay, so aprender means to learn. Beber means to drink. Make sure you write these down. Comer means to eat. Correr means to run. Creer means to believe. Deber means to owe, or if it's with a verb, to ought to. So like, debo dinero means I owe money, but debo escribir mi tarea means I need, or I should, or I ought to write my homework. So deber means to owe or to ought to. Leer means to read. Abrir means to open. Escribir means to write. Recibir means to receive. Repartir means to distribute. And vivir means to live. Okay, so let's turn the page and go to page 19.
Mr. Grace?
Yes.
Can I go get my book? It's downstairs.
Yes. Okay, so ser is the verb to be, and it's a lot like the verb estar because they both mean to be, except that they mean to be in different ways. So before we get to what they mean, you should know the conjugations. Soy, eres, es, somos, sois, son. Soy, eres, es, somos, sois, son. When ser is followed by an adjective, the adjective must agree with the noun it modifies in number and gender. So let's say it's like, the book is brown. Okay, here's my book. The book is brown. El libro es moreno. So libro is masculine, that's gender, and singular, that's number. So again, it says the adjective, the color, needs to agree with the noun, book, that it modifies in number and gender. So that's singular, plural, feminine, or masculine. So el libro, which is masculine, singular, libro, es moreno, is green. Or I'm sorry, brown, is moreno. Okay, look at the examples they have. Los sombreros son grandes y negros. So sombreros is plural and it's masculine, which means the adjectives that are describing the sombreros need to also be plural and masculine. So grandes is masculine and it's plural, and negros is masculine and it's plural. You guys know what negros means? Negros.
Color black.
Yes, the color black. And grandes, what does that mean?
Big.
Big. Okay, so the hats, los sombreros, are big and black. Okay, María es bonita y amable. So in this one, María is by herself, whereas the hats were plural. Okay, so María is singular and she's a girl, so it's feminine. So María is bonita, is beautiful, and nice, amable. And both of those are feminine singular. Okay, if you turn the page to page 20, you'll see a list of words. You should, a lot of them are cognates, which means they're words that are easily guessed at what the meaning is, like honesto. That's pretty honest. Honestly, it's really easy to figure out. And then other ones like paciente, you should really, it shouldn't be too hard to figure out what those are. Other ones like delgado, you might have a hard time and need to look up. So make sure that you look up what they mean, but they're also opposites. So amable and then maleducado means rude. So amable is nice or kind, and maleducado means rude. What's that circle in the middle? Do you guys know what that is? It's the letter O, and the letter O means or in Spanish. O. Amable o maleducado. So that's kind or rude. Okay? Because they're opposites. Alright. Notice that when you use ser, when ser is followed by the preposition de plus a noun, so es de cuero, it is of de cuero, leather, which is a noun, then it can be used to indicate what something is made of. So that would be its substance, or its origin, or who it belongs to, possession. Okay, so again, it says right there, it may be used to, the verb ser may be used to indicate substance, origin, or possession. So what something's made of, where it's from, or who it belongs to. So each of those are given as an example. What is the bag of, or of what is the bag? ¿De qué es la bolsa? Which means of what is it? Which means what is it made of? So, ¿de qué es la bolsa? What is the bag made of? Es de cuero. It is of leather. Okay, so it's made of leather. And then the next one, ¿de dónde es su padre? Or, ¿de dónde eres? Where are you from, right? Or, ¿de dónde es su padre? Es de San Juan. So, ¿de dónde es su padre? Where is your father from? He is. Es. He is de San Juan. He is of or from San Juan. Okay, and then ¿de quién es el libro? Of who is the book? So who does the book belong to? Of who is the book or who does the book belong to is the same thing. And the response, es del profesor. It is of the professor. Okay, the verb ser is used to indicate nationality, profession, religion, or political affiliation too. So the reason is because ser has to do with describing things that are characteristic of whatever the item is. Once you begin to leave what something is inherently, what it makes it what it is, then you start to use the verb estar. Because estar has to do with temporal, spatial, location, and things that come and go. So for example, If you want to say what the word aburrido means bored or boring, depending on what you're saying. So if you want to say right now, Kenji es aburrido, or Kenji está aburrido, it's going to mean something different. So right now, let's say Kenji's bored of Spanish, but he's not always bored. He's just bored because right now he's in Spanish. So Kenji está aburrido. Kenji is bored because it's not something he always feels. But if we wanted to say Kenji is boring, now we're describing who Kenji is and part of what makes him who he is. So we wouldn't say Kenji está aburrido, which means Kenji is bored. We would say Kenji es aburrido, because ser, describes a characteristic of a thing. So Kenji está aburrido means Kenji is bored, but Kenji es aburrido means Kenji is boring, even though aburrido is the same word. You guys understand? Or are you bored? Okay. Note, after the verb ser, the article is usually omitted with a noun indicating profession. So rather than saying, like it says there in the second sentence, es un médico famoso, we would say he is a famous medic, but we wouldn't say he is the medic. El hermano, the brother de Carlos's brother, es médico, we wouldn't say he is a medic or he is the medic. It just says he is medic. But once you say the médico after the verb de, then you do. Okay, any questions? All right. So your homework is online. It says activities 2, 3, 5 for the first one, and 7 plus the questions for the next one. But I'm going to change that. Oh, wait. So we talked a little bit about this, but on page 22 is ser versus estar. Ser is plus an adjective describes a basic trait or inherent characteristic, and estar plus an adjective describes a temporary state or condition. So you can look at more of these to see the difference. Paco es guapo. So Paco is a handsome person. But Paco está guapo means he looks handsome today. Okay? So if you want to be like, wow, that he's just got the looks, then you can say Paco es guapo. But if you want to say, wow, he looks nice today, Paco está guapo. He looks handsome today. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? All right. So let's look at your homework. Start on activity 3. We're going to skip activity 2 because we already did it. So I'm not going to have you do it again. That's lame. So on page 18, activity 3 says, change the sentence according to the new subjects given in parentheses. Marta vive en San Francisco. So we want to change it from Marta to Tomás y Pablo. So it would be Tomás y Pablo viven. They live in San Francisco instead of Marta vive. So you got to change the verb. Okay? Then activity 7 is on page 22. It says provide the correct, we're going to come back to that. Activity 5 is on page 20. So this one, los hermanos son simpáticos. So the brothers are nice, or yeah. But then it says ella es simpática también. So now it wants us to change the sentence, but we got to change more than just the verb. Okay, so notice it does change. Los hermanos is the subject, the brothers. So it says son, they are. And then ella is the subject, so in parentheses. So ella es. But since the adjective is there describing the subject, in the first one the subject is plural masculine, so that would mean simpáticos means they're friends. But ella es simpática, she is friendly too. So simpática had to change because the subject changed to feminine singular. And you need to change the sentence for all of them. So let's look at nosotros, the first one. Nosotros somos americanos. We are American. Nosotros somos americanos. But then it says change it so that the subject is ellas. Instead of we, it's they, but they are all girls. So, ellas, change the verb from somos to soy, eres, es, somos, sois, ellas son. So nosotros, I'm sorry, ellas son, and then American. But it's ellas, which is plural, but this time it's feminine instead of masculine. So, ellas son americanas. Period. Everyone understand? Okay. All right. Last activity is activity 7 and the conversation questions on page 24. So we'll come back to activity 7. On page 24, there's a dialogue. You need to read that in Spanish and then try to figure out what it's saying and answer the questions, the 5 questions below. The 5 questions that you answer are, you can answer them in English, but you need to understand what they're asking first and then give your answers. Okay? Activity 7 and the conversation questions are your second homework. So we have 2 lessons that we just did. We worked our way through 2 different lessons. So you're going to have 2 homework assignments. Both of them are due tomorrow night. So if you do one today and one tomorrow, then you can be fine. Rather than putting them all in one homework lesson, though, because we had one big lesson, instead of doing one homework lesson, I split it up into 2, and then you get twice the points. So, okay, activity 7 needs you to choose the correct form of the verb ser or estar. So, Mariano blank de Caracas. So, Mariano is from Caracas. Which one is to use to describe where someone is from? Ser or estar? Somebody tell me. Somebody say. Ser, take a guess. You got a 50-50 chance. Which verb? Drew, what?
Ser.
Yes, ser. Okay, so now we need to conjugate the verb ser. So Mariano is. Which verb do we use from the verb ser to tell who someone is if it's third person singular? It's on page 19. Soy, eres, es, somos, sois, or son. Soy, eres, es, somos, sois, or son. Kenji, what do you think? Es, correct. Okay, so Mariano es de Caracas. Okay, so, and then you need to do all 10. That's your homework. Anybody have any questions? All right then.